disease charity last year. Kris is going to be talking about addiction problems, his own addiction problems, and how he overcame them through fitness, and is also going to be covering loads of motivational tips and advice for anybody who wants to incorporate a bit more fitness into their lives. You can type in questions throughout this webinar in the text box at the side, and Kris will get through as many as he can at the end. So I'm going to hand over to Kris now, and I hope you enjoy our webinar tonight. Thanks.
Thanks, Lucy. So hi guys. So I'm Kris, and any questions today at all, just fire them through. As Lucy said, I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, really. So I'm a personal trainer and a coach. I have my own gym. The last couple of years have been quite crazy for me, and my role's been actively working more as an athlete and a fundraiser. But I have worked at a really high level and with a lot of different athletes, as well as going from the beginner right through. So any questions on fitness or nutrition or anything like that, fire them in and we'll go through them at the end. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to share my personal story. I'm not really a normal story of someone that kind of came into the fitness industry. I have a bit of a ropey background myself. And then hopefully I can relate that to some tips at the end, and then if I can inspire or motivate a few of you guys to kind of take that into your own lives, then job's done. So yeah, there may be a technical issue here. I'm hoping there won't be, but I'm hoping if I press this button, you guys can see a full screen slideshow. And basically this last year has been pretty crazy, really. When I was younger, I moved out of my family home when I was 12. I got kicked out, and from there, I had a really bad few years where I wasn't exactly homeless, but I would be popping from home to home, and I struggled quite a bit emotionally with kind of getting on with anyone, really. The two father figures I had in my life at the time, my own dad left when I was young and didn't really want anything to do with me. Every time I tried to contact him, he didn't want any involvement. And the second guy that stepped in was an abusive, gambling idiot, really. And so I had very two negative role models growing up. And this basically caused a lot of anger issues for me. I kind of rebelled, and I was impossible really to live with, and that's why I got kicked out. And from there, I was hanging around with the bad crowds and got into things like drugs, petty crime. I was rubbish at it, to be fair, so I always got caught. It wasn't a real crime's not a real career for me. I'm not very good at it. But yeah, growing up as a teen, I really did struggle, and I got brought in by another family. It was an amazing family, and the father of the household there was an incredible role model for me, and someone that I really I needed, and took on everything that he said. The problem is that he had Huntington's disease, and it's, for those that don't know, it's a neurological disorder, and there's no treatment or cure. And basically, once someone has the gene that causes the disease, there's a 50% chance of passing it on to any child that person has. So the way that I was brought into the family, my best friend, it's his dad that had it. So I kind of came into the household, and he looked after me and brought me up. And growing up, I really, I started to get into the right place. I went back to school, started doing well in school, started getting a job, working. I got a job behind a bar at 18. I was a manager of a nightclub at 18, which at that time, it was incredible. I had a really hard partying lifestyle. But with Phil getting worse over time with the disease, I started getting really angry at the situation, and I got involved really heavily with drugs. It wasn't a case of doing things like heroin, but the non-addictive, or they say non-addictive drugs like cocaine, speed and E, I used to take a hell of a lot of. I was in a very, very dark patch of my life for probably about a year solid, where I'd rather forget it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I was out of a home. I didn't speak to my mother for 6 years after she kicked me out. And it was a really, really dark time, and Phil was the person that brought me back round and got me back on the straight and narrow. Phil himself was a very inspirational guy. He was a doctor over in America, and he was a true patriot of believing that health is your only wealth. It was the only thing that he instilled into me, really. Well, he instilled a lot of things, but the main thing he instilled into me was your health is your only wealth. And at the time of him saying that, I didn't understand it, but obviously as he got ill and his health was stripped away from him, out of his control, it became a very, very important thing for me. And after a couple of talks with him just before he went into a care home, I ended up setting up a gym when I was 20. So I was the youngest gym owner in the country, and pretty much did a full reversal. All the feelings of wanting to kind of punish myself and stress, kind of all the addictive side of me was channeled into business and into making other people's lives better, just like he's kind of taught me to. And he was a pretty incredible guy when he was healthy. A few things about him: he fought Chuck Norris in a martial arts competition. He was ranked second in America at one point. He had a Medal of Bravery for taking down an armed robber outside a jewelry store. He just had an incredible life. And as time went on and he went into a home, I felt that something needed to be done. So I actually set up my own challenge, and that was to run and cycle around the whole coastline of Great Britain, circumnavigating it in 34 days. So it would turn out that I'd either run a marathon or cycle 100 miles day on day to make sure that I can spread awareness of this disease, which there was not a lot of it, and raise as much money as we could in his honour, because it was hard seeing him in a home, and this really was my coping mechanism. Fitness for me, and running especially, was more of a meditation for me. And I always try and promote forming healthy habits, and this is the kind of thing that I'm going to talk through today, what I do with my clients if they do want to make their lives better. But as we got closer to the event, we was about 2 months away from the event. I had 18 months to train for it, and I was training pretty hard, as you can imagine, and getting the best support teams that I could. 2 months prior to the event, we actually lost Phil, and it was quite sudden, and it hit us all very hard. And at that time, it could have quite easily been a time that I slipped back to my old ways, but once again, just a bit of a refocus and using his kind of mantra, really. I put all of my attention into being a better person and helping others and trying to motivate others into making themselves better. So I still continue to do the challenge. We didn't cancel it, and 2 months later, on the 22nd of May, I started in Blackpool and started working my way around. So that picture of me in the middle there is the morning of me going. I can tell you now, I've never, ever been so scared and nervous in my entire life. But set off, and I actually got engaged the day after I asked my girlfriend at the time to marry me. A couple of days in, which that picture down at the bottom there on the beach is that. And my body went through an absolute pasting for the first couple of weeks, as you can imagine, doing that kind of mileage. Up into the west coast of Scotland, it was absolutely stunning. It's the most beautiful place I've ever been. So if you guys haven't been out there, get out to places like Inverary and Oban. They are absolutely stunning. And I was annoyed at myself for not going. All this time people have been saying, get yourself up there, and I avoided it. But as we were going round, we were starting to build a bit of momentum, and one of my tasks as we were going was to get as much awareness and funds as possible, obviously. So we was contacting local media teams and newspapers and things like that. And we was actually reaching out to the HD community on a global scale and trying to get everyone together, and we really did drum up a lot of following. Up to John O'Groats, I'm really whipping through this. Normally this would be a longer talk for me, but I want to focus on how we form these healthy habits. So any questions on this as well, don't fire them in at any point. But yeah, up to John O'Groats, and that was a really, really tough day for me. And emotionally it was quite tough because things were starting to sink in about what actually happened with Phil, and missing home a bit as well. It seemed like I was quite far away at this point, obviously right at the tip of Scotland. It felt quite isolated. I took my dog as well, so my dog came with the support team, and the support team consisted of a couple of friends, And I also invited 2 people from the HD community, or the Huntington's disease community. And these are people that either had tested positive for the genes but not shown symptoms of the disease, or they'd shown symptoms. And symptoms tend to happen where it's a mixture of mental and psychological symptoms. Mentally, things start like depression, anxiety, and obviously it progressively gets worse, and the physical symptoms tend to be involuntary movements. So if anyone's seen anybody with Parkinson's, imagine that, but more violent contractions. It really is a horrible disease. So Dave, that you see in the picture there behind me on the bike, has tested positive for the gene, but not yet to get symptoms. People normally or tend to get symptoms later on in their 30s or 40s. But what it does really, this gene really gives these guys a value of what health actually means, because they get it stripped away from them, and they know if they test positive for this gene, they know at some point this is going to come for them. So they really live, and it's quite a common thing, they really live their life to the maximum. And Dave is always out and about. Every weekend he's doing something, or other, and that actually brings a positive to him, because I don't know if he would have done that if this gene wasn't present in his life. As we started getting back into England, we got really, really good coverage, and families were actually coming out to meet me at the start line, at the finish lines of places, and we were connecting people together. So people were supporting each other, and the value of a support network came really apparent. These guys felt isolated. So in the top left here, you see 2 families that lived 2 streets away but had never met each other, and they knew of no one in the area. This was in Cleethorpes, no one in the area that had HD, and linking them together was a massive thing, and it kind of crossed over into every aspect of life for me, how important that support network is. Every marathon I did every first marathon I did in a country, I would paint my face in the country's flag, and it kind of gained a lot more media attention. And then I started working my way down to the south coast. Skinners, who was another person in my second support team, she is 24, tested gene positive and actually had symptoms. She has minor symptoms, so she's just started with involuntary movements, and she cycled behind me and ended up cycling 100 miles actually. She cycled behind me as I ran the marathons, and it was amazing to have someone there that was, once again, that she has this terminal illness, and she's making the most of it, and she's really battling her own demons, and getting on with it. And because it is quite common for people with Huntington's disease, linked in with depression obviously, to turn to things like drugs and alcohol to kind of as a coping mechanism. And this was once again our way of kind of telling people that it doesn't have to be that way, and there is another option. By the time we got to the south coast, we really started getting moving with the momentum, and we really started getting national cover. We was into a lot of national papers, and the money was really pouring in. We met more families and children that were at risk. So in this family at the bottom here, there's Robert that has the disease. His sister next to me, Sarah, doesn't. Obviously, it's a 50-50 chance. And the 2 kids haven't got tested yet, but they also have a 50% chance of developing this disease, and they both fundraise, and it was an amazing family to be down there. And the south coast was really tough as well. That was where most of the gradients and the hills were. Coming back into Wales, we'd been to Land's End, and that flag that I'm carrying there has the names of 300 people that had been lost to HD over the last couple of years. We actually started getting support from people like Bear Grylls, which was amazing. The HD community has never had that kind of support from anyone of that kind of caliber, so it was amazing to see. And then by the time I got to Wales, you can tell by these photos I'd lost a hell of a lot of weight. I'm 2 stone down there, and that's still eating 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day. So if you ever want to lose some weight, get on your bike and get cycling around the coastline. It's a pretty good way to do it. And then I finished. My final day was in Sheffield, where I was with all my family, and all these people came out to support me. I had about 300 people at the finish line, and we had a festival as well, where we had live bands, and there were about 1,000 people throughout the day came. And we ended up raising £30,000 in total for the HDA, which was an amazing achievement. And the good thing as well, we were looking at raising awareness and getting our message out there, and a lot of the people you see in that photo had never heard of the disease before that. So most of my time now is going around educating in schools, motivating, across all schools and corporate level to make sure that people are not only aware of this disease, but they kind of get a look on life that might be a little bit different. That they're lucky enough not to have this gene impact them, and that there are people out there making the most of life, and really they have the opportunity and they have a reason to go to these dark places, but they choose not to, and they try their hardest to stay, with these correct habits. So, touching on what's happening next, as Lucy said, I got nominated for the Pride of Britain Awards, and we got down to the final 10, which was amazing. I didn't do it for that, obviously, but it was amazing to have that kind of cover. I'm really addicted to this kind of stuff now, and this is where my addiction comes in. Again, my addictive personality, because the feeling I got from this whole challenge was amazing. There was a level of self-discovery that I still think I'm on. I still think I'm on a journey with this and finding out who I am. So this year in August, and I'm currently in training for it, I'm attempting to break the British record to be the fastest Brit to climb from the bottom of Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to the top. Most people take 5 to 7 days. So that page that you see there is a page that you can follow and support and get all updates and things. But what I thought I'd cover and spend most of my time on is how to replace unhealthy addictions with healthy habits. And I've carefully worded that because there isn't a healthy addiction. The reason I say that is you might think that, well, yeah, you seem to be pretty healthy. That's an addiction I wouldn't mind. I also get depressed still because it seems to be an itch that I don't know if I'll ever be able to scratch. I don't know where my end point will be. I don't know where I will ever get to a day when I decide enough's enough. I don't know if that day is going to come. And it's a big fear for me. So replacing unhealthy addictions with healthy habits is a very carefully structured sentence, because that's what we want to do. Replacing an unhealthy addiction with a healthy addiction is also counterproductive, and that's what I'm working on. That's my own demon, so to speak, that I have to work on. But there's no doubt about it, my own relationships with people have suffered because of the commitment that I've had to put into this. So we really need to make sure that these habits are formed, and to form habits we have to repeat behaviour, and we have to repeat behaviour enough that it doesn't become effort. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to find the why. Okay, and when we kind of reference it to what we're talking about today, if I said to you, why do you want to limit the amount of alcohol that you consume? And you say something along the lines of, because I want to, or because it'll make me feel better, that's not enough. Okay, you have to ask why again. Why don't you feel? Why do you feel like you need to feel better? Because at the minute I'm feeling really bad. I can't wake up in the morning properly, and my sleep pattern's disturbed. My relationship's breaking down. Okay, why is your relationship breaking down? So you see, I keep asking why and why and why, and then eventually you'll get, because I'm so depressed or I'm so stressed I can't handle this anymore. And that's a common thing. But what we've done there is we've found an emotional reason to why we've got this unhealthy habit. And once we have that, we can set a reminder that we need to change it. So when you get further down the line, and when you're weeks and months down the line and you seem to be kind of slipping up again, someone can turn to you and say, listen, you told me that you didn't want to do this anymore because of X, Y, Z, and listing off all these emotional reasons that you stated. And it's quite common for people to break down when this happens. And I do this as well when it comes to weight loss. Why do you want to lose weight? Because I feel awful in myself. Why do you feel awful? Because I have no confidence. Why do you have no confidence? Because I just look in a mirror and I can't stand the sight of myself. There we go. We've got an emotional reason. And it's the same thing with any kind of habit forming. You have to find out the reason why you need to change it and set that reminder. Okay, so even if it's just reminding yourself, no, this is why I'm doing it. It's very important to do that. And one of the things that is a common theme throughout all of this is to control the controllable variables. Okay, so what I mean by that is there's a lot of, it's very deep. It's not a case of just finding an emotional reason and then kind of manning up. I understand this. I've been through it myself, and I've got a person very close to me at the minute going through exactly the same thing. It gets deeper than that, and there's a lot of reasons that might need working out. But there are variables that you can control, and control quite easy. And by doing that, your chances of success increase, your chances of falling off or slipping up go down drastically. Okay? This could be making sure there's alcohol not in the house. This is making sure that your friends are also supporting you. They're controllable variables that you can control. Okay? The list is endless, and we're going to touch on a few with the nutrition and training and exercise. They're also controllable variables, and when you control all of them, you have a very, very, very increased chance of success with things. So also setting achievable short and long-term goals. This will come up a lot with any kind of breaking of addiction. You have to have short-term and long-term, and they have to be achievable. Okay, the short-term could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly. The long-term could be yearly, it could be the whole decade. It doesn't matter, but these have to be set effectively for you, and they have to be worked, and they have to be cleverly done. And then also forming a support network. This organization in itself is that support network for you guys. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But then also putting your health first. Okay, a lot of people in this situation, in my experience, are the same kind of people that will put everyone before themselves in every respect, not just in health. But your health has to come first, because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be in a position to help these people. So this is it goes back to what Phil taught me. Your health is your only wealth. Okay, it doesn't matter about anything else if you're not healthy. It really doesn't. You have to make sure that it's one of your top priorities, and shifting your priorities around is something that can have a drastic effect on your life. But all of these habits won't happen overnight. They have to be done regularly, and it takes, they say, 1,000 repetitions of one movement to master a movement. I think when it's forming habits like this, I think it's like 3,000, 5,000. It has to be so they're so regular you don't even think about them, just like brushing your teeth. Okay, but there's some simple things that we can do in terms of nutrition and training and exercise that will really affect how we feel emotionally, how stable we are, and they're little changes. Individually, they might not make much of a difference, but together they make a huge difference. And once again, it's very important that these changes have to happen over time. If you make these all overnight, they're not going to happen. You can't form, how many have I got here? 10 habits overnight. You can't form them. You have to focus on one at a time. Okay. So when we come to nutrition, one of the things that happens quite a lot of the time when anyone's kind of limiting the amount of alcohol that they are drinking drastically is a massive drop in not only calories, but sugars. And that can be good. It can be really good in terms of losing weight, but it can also be a massive variable in how you feel. If you drop a massive amount of calories drastically, you will feel horrible. You will feel tired, and emotionally you might feel better because you're giving this up and you're feeling great on that front. You might not have the headaches and the hangovers, but your body will be tired because it's not got those calories, so it has to be restricted slowly. One thing you can do in the meantime is do not fear fats. Okay, and what I mean by that is healthy fats, omega-3. These come in forms of nuts, avocados, oily fish. Don't fear those kind of fats because they're higher in calories and they will fill that void. And you know what? Those calories are going to be a hell of a lot healthier when they're coming from those sources than they are from any form of alcohol. Okay. What we have to do as well is learn to love the kitchen. And these habits, by the way, aren't in any particular order of importance. I've just listed them as I kind of was typing the other day. Learning to love the kitchen is very important. Okay. I love to cook. It's another meditation for me. It's another way to chill me out. Okay. Investing time in learning how to cook healthy meals for you and the family so the family love them as well, or getting kids involved, spending time with the family, is an absolute must. Absolute must. And once you've invested that time in learning new recipes and learning how to cook, it's one of the most valuable investments of time that you will ever get, because over time things become a hell of a lot easier once you know how to cook things. Okay. Staying hydrated, massively important. Okay, dehydration is a massive thing when it comes to people that drink a little bit too much or far too much. Obviously, dehydration is a huge thing. So staying hydrated is really important to the way that not only your body operates, but the way that you feel again. Okay, and bear in mind all of these variables are going to make you stable and feel better. Okay, so carrying water around with you at work, in the car, get a big litre bottle and just keep filling it. You can go up to 2-3 litres a day of water. Once again, don't just smash 3 litres of water overnight. Slowly increase it. Okay, and do not heavily restrict anything. All right, don't just go from that to a Juice Plus. Don't just go from that to a Herbalife. I wouldn't recommend them anyway. But don't go straight to it, because you're not going to achieve this long term. That's a short-term fix. Slow changes over time will make sure that you feel better all day round, all throughout the week. Okay? And then eating lots of fruit and veg. It doesn't have to be 5 a day. That's an old school kind of government guideline. But making sure that you've got your vitamins and your nutrients that you need to make yourself feel better. Okay? With those, if you do all of those and you're starting to feel better and you're looking after yourself nutritionally, guaranteed your chances of feeling crappy one day or having a slip up are going to be drastically reduced. Okay? Once you start getting the nutrition in order, you can start looking towards the training and exercise. Okay? So that's when we start looking at things like variety. Okay? You have to make it fun. If you don't enjoy running, fair enough. Try something else. But variety of training will make sure that you stick around at it. Will make sure that you have things to do and progress. So slow and steady progress will occur because you'll have variety and lots of things to measure. So whether it's you add a couple of kilometers to your run, or you take a minute off, or you lift more down at the gym, or you did a yoga class and you busted out 2-3 new moves, every single thing, as long as there's slow and steady progression, you'll get to where you need to be. Sleep is a huge thing. Okay? Sleep patterns are heavily disturbed with alcohol. Okay, you are not going to sleep as deep, and even if you're in bed with your eyes shut for 6 to 8 hours, you might be asleep for 2 to 3. Okay, sleep apnea is quite a common thing. So restricting the amount that of alcohol you drink is obviously going to help with sleep. The more that you sleep, the more that you're going to feel better, stable, and you'll be in a position to make correct decisions. Okay, but the most important thing out of all of this is repetition, repetition, repetition. You have to repeat this behavior to make it a habit. Okay? I had to, when I went from being a manager of the nightclub to the gym owner, 2 very different roles, and I had to transition very quickly. And to this day, I still get hot and sweaty under the collar if I'm out on a night out and a couple of friends of friends or a network of people around me have got drugs on them. I still get sweaty under the collar, and it's still a thing that I have to control. But the repetition of my behavior over the last years has made that a hell of a lot easier. And the same goes with anything that I do. Getting up now and exercising is just the way I live. The way that I eat now is just the way that I live, and it was very different back then. But it's took me 8 years. 8 years to really establish to a point now. And like I've admitted, I still struggle. But I very rarely am in a position where I want to give up and I want to sack it all in, because these habits are formed. And helping other people get these habits as well is something that also helps me day to day. Okay? And then just to finish on a quote, which is quite good. It's by a guy called the Dalai Lama. He's quite a big dude. I think he's quite popular. And your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. Okay? So all of these things that I've kind of been speaking about tonight all came from in the person that I am today, all came from one man. One person taught me the values of his life and passed them on to me, and I am quite happy and humbled to be carrying on his legacy doing the same. So if one of you guys can go through this process and after hearing this tonight think, you know what, I'm ready to make some changes and keep going with these, or even help someone else, wingmanning for someone and helping someone else do it is just as effective as a coping mechanism as you doing it yourself. So and it'll help you along. Okay, but that's the talk. Unmute button.
Right, can you hear me now?
Ah, we're there.
Sorry about that.
Please tell me I've not been silent for about half an hour.
No.
All right.
I couldn't do anything.
I was thinking then that I've come back on and no one's heard a word I've said, and I've just been talking to myself.
No, it was all fine till about
right.
5 minutes ago. So sorry about that, everybody. Thank you for your patience. Kris, can you remember where you were?
Yeah, so I was just about to answer some questions, and one came in about how many. I think it was something like how many jogs a week do I need to do to lose weight?
Yes,
was the question. So yeah, there's a load of different things that can kind of come into play with that, because if you were jogging all day every day, and you were burning, let's say, on a miraculous scale of 15,000 calories a day, but your diet didn't support that, okay? Because at the end of the day, to lose weight, you have to be in a calorie deficit, and if your diet doesn't support that, then you're not going to lose weight. It's as simple as that. So what you actually want to be doing with any kind of form of exercise and with your diet is there's things that you can go on online called macro calculators, and you can fill in like your weight and your age and your type of training that you're doing, or however many times a week that you do that, and it'll work out what your average calories per day should be. And then you just have to kind of get under that, really, and make sure that you're not restricting your calories too much. So I would say for most people, to answer the question, 2 or 3 runs can work, as long as you're not restricting your calories too much and you're living with a healthy diet and lifestyle around that. Okay.
Right. Kris, I was going to say, and thank you for your talk, by the way. It was really impressive. I'm so amazed by what you've done. It's fantastic. You know, kind of, I always, when I drank, I used to see running as like a chore, and it was just something that I kind of did, I think, to mitigate my drinking, really. I just felt like it was, you know, something I had to do. But since I've stopped drinking, it's just become so much more to me than that, and it's absolutely like a real focus and such an important thing in my life. It's like, and it is meditative, and it's kind of the time when I've got to myself, and it's just on a mental level, it's helped me so much, and I'm absolutely convinced it's a major part of me not drinking, the fact that I go running so much. Do you think people commonly kind of think that exercise is like a chore, and that's part of the problem, and that once you've kind of wrapped your head around the fact that you need to incorporate it in your life and make it a lifestyle thing, it becomes so much easier?
Yeah, I think exercise, I don't know anyone that's done exercise and said that doesn't make me feel better on some level. But the problem you have when you've come from maybe inactivity or a bad diet is exercise isn't comfortable. It's horrible. It makes you feel warm and sweaty and uncomfortable, and it's not enjoyable. But like any form of exercise is like that. And when you just carry on through, it gets easier literally every session, and it gets to a point like where you are now, running's completely different, like you said, because you don't have to think about it. It just is something that you enjoy, and it's not, every now and again you might push the pace and it becomes a workout again, but you can just go out, strap a pair of shoes on and go, and it's not a massive effort for you, or as much as it would have been if you were, let's say, 2 stone heavier, or, you know, drinking.
Really hungover.
Yeah, that's it. So it's all about making sure that you kind of bite the bullet at the beginning, and it's harder. And if you can if you can be persistent and get it done early doors, as you start to progress on, it just gets easier. But you just have to be really consistent with it, and you have to make sure that you can put a value on that and make sure that you're getting the most from it. But that's where that support network comes in again. If you've got that with you. I was going to say,
is there anything that people can do in the first few months, or when it is really difficult, then to kind of keep them?
There are obviously loads of clubs out there for different people, but like if it's running that's your thing, there's free park runs in Britain, and they've got them all over the place. They're free, a massive mixture of people of all abilities, and 5K is one of those distances where you can walk it. Anyone can walk 5K, you know, with any reasonable amount of help. And if you just walk it, it's the kind of atmosphere at these places where they really don't mind. Everyone's supportive. But you have to get down there and see what it's like. And even if you go down and watch it without signing up to it, there's no cost. You just have to register. And you can go down there, and you never know. You could meet someone in the same situation as you, or you could just meet that different circle of friends. And once you hang around with that different circle of friends that do it as a habit, you're laughing. You've got your support network there. But you have to get out there. You have to go and experience them and realise that some of the experiences are going to be bad, but eventually, just like dating, you're going to date loads of idiots until you find the right one. It's the same with exercise. You're going to get loads of idiots and loads of bad classes, then you'll find one that you like, and then you might end up doing it for the rest of your life. So.
Yeah, okay, great. Can you see the question that's popped up from Joe on paleo?
Paleo, clean food lifestyle. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so, yeah, with clean eating, I don't have a problem in the sense that people eat clean, so to speak. I think if you restrict everything from your diet, it goes back to that, is it short-term or long-term? So it becomes a little bit different when you're talking about alcohol, because some people can maybe factor it in a little bit to their lifestyle again. It depends on what level you are. But let's say, for example, if I was clean eating and I was cutting out cookies, let's say, which is my favourite food, I'm not going to do that long term. It's not going to happen. All right. So I would say healthy eating, it is factoring in those things that you can have a little bit of and control. So that's where my problem with clean eating comes, because by cutting things out, a lot of people want it more. And that might be a thing that you guys, or some of you guys, have experienced. Once something's cut out, it's that desire and that need to have it. And you can go off in this circle again, and it becomes worse. Paleo is one of those things that you're supposed to be eating like a caveman. It's a sellable diet. It's probably the better one of the lot, because it kind of restricts a few things and that doesn't restrict everything. If the people that do paleo say that you're eating like a caveman, my fundamental thing with, they're not eating like cavemen, they're just eating what they think would be like what cavemen would eat. So there's a whole load of problems with that. But on the whole, out of all of them, that is probably the best approach to go with. Is it actually as they say it is? Probably not. But if you were going to go with any kind of lifestyle or any kind of habit, or looking at the way that you eat, that is probably the best way to do it, I would say. Okay,
and just another question I'd like to ask is something that comes up on Soberistas a lot is that people replace alcohol with chocolate and sweet stuff because of the lack of sugar that they used to be consuming through alcohol. Yeah. I did it, and I was a nightmare, and I'm still a bit of a nightmare with chocolate. I have to kind of really watch it. But I definitely found that for me, if I stick to like a kind of well-balanced diet and eat the right things and then really sort of good nutritional diet, then it does help my mental state as well. I don't get those like highs and lows. I don't have the energy drop in the afternoon and everything. Yeah. Is it a case of if you're stopping drinking, would it help you to try and cut sugar out at the same time, or is that kind of too much? And what you were saying about the habits and trying to form one habit at a time, is it better to just think of the alcohol and then a few months down the line sort of consider the sugar problem? Or
there's so many different individual cases, and it'll be different from person to person. So, like I said about the person I know, for example, she was under the impression that she would have a lifestyle where she could control alcohol. So she kind of gave it up for a few weeks and then said, I can go out for a drink and control it, but then didn't. And it got to a point where now she has to accept that she can't do it. And it's the same with anything. If you're replacing that addiction with another one and you can't control that addiction, all you've done is replace one addiction with another, and whether it's healthy or unhealthy, on the whole is unhealthy because it's going to affect you and the people around you in some way. But if you can control that one easier, if you can't control alcohol but you can control chocolate to a degree, then that's a healthier addiction. I can control my exercise to a degree. I can control my exercise, so that is a healthier addiction in more senses than just obviously the activity. So I'd say that if you're replacing that alcohol with another kind of vice, so to speak, if you have to just look at it on the whole of how it's affecting you. If it's making you more empowered and you can say no to it a few times, then crack on with that. But yeah, you're right. Changing too many things at once is a common mistake. And if you can accept the fact that I'm eating some chocolate, I might put a little bit of weight on, or I might stay the same weight, or I'm not going to lose weight right now, that's fine. But at least I'm not drinking.
Yeah, so just kind of...
That's your win. Yeah, that's your win. That's ultimately what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's the overall goal, and that's the most important thing to you guys, is to make sure you've got a control on alcohol. If you've got that, you've won. You've done that.
Yeah. Okay.
You're winning. So, but it'll depend on the individual, and a whole different amount of personalities will come into that as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There's another question there about supplements. Do you believe in supplements, and if so, which ones should somebody take?
Okay, so there's a level of importance that I stress with people, right? When you're looking after your health, we'll actually say fat loss. We'll actually say getting in your optimal body shape, or so to speak, and how you feel. Okay, the most important, even above exercise, is nutrition. Okay, if your nutrition isn't right, all of the others won't be supported. You're more likely to get injured. You're more likely to fluctuate in your moods up and down the day and not want to even do exercise. So that needs to be the main priority. So if you imagine a pyramid, the bottom... Sorry, this is my microphone that I'm waving about. So I'm just going to stick it here, and can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Yep. So if you imagine the pyramid with the bottom layer being nutrition as the most important, and the next one up would be exercise. Okay, so that should get most of your attention, then this one. Okay. Once you've got the habits formed in these two sections, the next one is what you call your thermogenic activity. So that's basically your day-to-day. Are you walking, or are you sat at an office all day? Because if you have an active job, it's going to make a hell of a lot more difference than if you have an office job. So let's see how we can exercise when we're not exercising, so to speak. So if we're not at the gym, or we're not doing this, can we get out and walk with the dog? Can we go out with the kids? Can we go play football? That should be your third level. Okay. Some people will even put more importance than that on exercise, because that will be their main source of exercise, because they've got a reason to do it. They've got not only a reason to go support their kids, but to pass on that kind of responsibility to them.
Yeah.
The last thing is supplements. So if you haven't got these tiers correct, there is no point in even touching supplements. Okay? They have a very minimal importance, probably about 10% of the overall picture. Sorry, that's my watch beeping. So make sure that you've got your nutrition right, your exercise, your day-to-day activity, and then look at supplements. Okay, go in that order. If you haven't got the others before, don't even bother. And that even also includes Herbalife, Juice Plus, or any other supplement company that just drive to make money from that top end. Okay,
right. So I've got another question.
Okay.
I saw something on the news yesterday, I think yesterday or the day before, that said that diet, just to kind of reinforce what you've just said, that diet is the most important thing in terms of weight loss, not exercise. So if you've eaten a really bad diet, it doesn't matter how much exercise you do, really, you're never going to be you're not going to be slim, basically. So, and also I suppose if you're slimmer, then exercise is easier, it's less of a chore. So I suppose, are there any kind of easy rules to get started on a good kind of nutritional path if you're eating crap? How do you get started? What are the basics, basically, and then you can kind of build on that?
The reason why these articles come up is because they don't differentiate clearly enough the difference between weight loss and health. So it's very important to say that you can be overweight but still healthy. Okay. There are a lot of people that are overweight that are healthier than people that are on weight or underweight. And they often live longer, because health is more important than weight. And it's very, very, very important to separate those two things. Okay? Because what we're looking at doing by cutting the alcohol down, weight loss shouldn't be your main priority. Your health should be your main priority, with weight loss coming secondary. Okay, and it's very, very important to state that and get that really cemented into your head, because once you do that, it becomes a hell of a lot less stressful, because you're not jumping on the scales every time, and you're not comparing yourself to other people, because your health is increasing, and you can use that with less stressful variables. Like, I've added an extra little bit to my walk today, or I've jogged all the way up my stairs at work rather than getting out of breath. All those little things are the things that are going to make a huge difference when you add them up. When it comes to the basics of your own nutrition, it depends where you're coming from. Okay, one person's nutrition on a standard level is going to be completely different to another's. What I would say is if you look at those habits that we discussed earlier and factor them into your own diet and whatever it is now and compare it to, do I do that? Do I hydrate properly? Do I cook enough at home? Do I prepare my meals? Do I actually maybe prepare my evening meal and cook a little bit extra to take to work with me the next day? Do I do things like that? Because they're going to be the things that make the difference, not necessarily what you eat. It's the manner in which you're preparing it and the way that you're cooking it.
Hi, thank you to everybody who's hung around and been really patient with the technical issues we've been having tonight. I don't know what the problem was. It's not happened before, so I'm really, really sorry, and thank you very much for waiting around. We're going to finish it there because it just seems to be a glitch that we can't resolve properly. This webinar will be edited to cut out those bits and will then be available to view on our webinars page. So you will be able to watch the savable bits. And thank you for your patience. And thanks ever such a lot to Kris, who was brilliant. And I'm really sorry we had to put up with all those problems. So thanks a lot, and bye. We'll see you next month for hopefully a glitch-free webinar.